So we are here to study a little bit the landing phase and things which are around this phase. And in the hurricane, we have to remember that for the moment where the game is not completely simulating the aircraft, this lever controls the landing gear, the undercarriage, and also the flaps at the same time. So if I'm not going to do it now because I have too much speed, and again this is not yet simulated. If I we lower the flaps or landing gear with very high speed at the moment, you will not have any damage, but certainly later on when the game will be a little bit patched and modified, then you will have some problems damaging the aircraft if you do that at high speed. So I'm going to show you in the up position this lever for undercarriage up as this position, and for flaps up as this position. And this bar here is the flap position indicator. So if I want now, I can use a little bit of flaps. I can put them down to the 10 position, for example, like that. And you see that you cannot, at the moment, you cannot in this aircraft move flaps and landing gear together. And for the moment you can do that, but if the game will be, this aircraft will be modified, then later on you may have the real thing simulated. So the basic thing is to return the lever to neutral position every time you do something with the flaps or landing gear. Once you have finished, you should return the lever to the neutral position. So for the landing, what is important to know, we are first going to make the landing with too much speed and an aircraft which is not correctly trimmed, and I will show you why it is important to trim the aircraft in any flight phase, and what does the landing, what happens in the landing if you have too much speed. First thing we have to know, the reason for having the high RPM setting, so maximum basically something around 3000 RPM, which is again this lever here that you see me moving. That's the RPM setting to the full position. Is that when you need power, when you need thrust, you increase you open to the gate, for example, like that. You have some thrust with and the result is the counter torque of the motor. So with a low RPM setting, you have a lot of torque with a reasonable amount of thrust, and with maximum RPM you have very low counter torque with a very good amount of thrust at low speed. So it prevents the aircraft from going from rolling on itself. If in case you need some power, aircraft tends to roll on itself. That's amplified by the low RPM setting. So now we are going to make the landing with some high speed. We're going to make it 120 miles. And I'm setting gear down. And the aircraft, I don't trim the aircraft. So we're not going to touch very well on the runway, but that's not a problem for what I want to show you. we are not completely lined up, that's not a problem anyway. So the aircraft has a tendency to fall down on the ground. I have to prevent it with the joystick, and then it will bounce once, twice. Obviously I didn't idle the power completely because I wanted to take off after that. So now if we are not trimming the aircraft, what happens, I need to keep pulling the joystick, and the joystick has a certain curve, the quadratic curve, which means that inside this game you have a lot of accuracy around the center position, and the movements are very rough, very rude, very fast in the extremum positions. That's just because the curve is not linear. It is made so that around this center, which is now here, this is around the center, it's very smooth. So if you have the chance to trim your aircraft properly for this phase of the flight, the final, the approach, you will have an aircraft more easy to control. And if we break the speed by the end of the final, we will have to pull on the joystick until in order to prevent the aircraft from touching the ground, and this will simply result in a 3-point landing, which means that the aircraft has not anymore the speed it needs to bounce, because the wings will not give anymore the lift. That's because we will be close from the stalling speed, which means you have to take care of your speed. We're going to make that around between 80 and 100 miles an hour. We're preparing the aircraft now. And I'm making the adjustment on the trim now. As you can see, the aircraft is flying by itself very smoothly. And now I just take care about the speed. And I prevent the aircraft from touching the ground. I simply do that like that. And I let it fall down on the ground. Like this. And then I keep pulling down on the joystick, because when I am going to use the wheel brakes, it can prevent the aircraft from nosing, going on its nose. And that's it for a kind of 3-point landing.